Microdose, yeah. Microdose, 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 dose. Microdose, microdose, dose. Microdose, microdose, dose.
What's good, y'all? Kush here, back. Yes, that's right. I said back with a new microdose. I know. We did it last week, and it felt so good. We had to do it again this week. What my host is probably looking at me very confused is I took most of the summer off, Drew, and that is my man, the funniest man in the room, Drew Angelman. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. Happy to be talking about movies, even though I feel less equipped talking about last quarter movies and this quarter movies, because I've been kind of off my game for the summer, at least for August. I only saw one movie in August, and it didn't even come out in August. So, yeah.
What did you end up seeing in August?
In August, I saw Mission Impossible, the new one, which I thought was really strong. I really liked it. I enjoyed it. It's normal scenes, but then it's like those action scenes really grip you. Yeah, and there's one scene at the very end. I don't want to spoil anything, but like a train scene at the very end had my palms sweaty, even though I knew there's going to be a second one. So I was like, Tom Cruise is not gonna die. Spoiler alert, he's not gonna die. But I was like, still sweaty, and I'm like, you never know what could happen in these movies. Yeah, right. But I thought it was really, really good, really, really solid.
Yeah, I also enjoyed the Mission Impossible Part 7, Part 1. And unlike the other two movies that we are immediately promising us sequels, that's Fast X and Spider-Verse 2, this movie actually has like a conclusion. Like we know we're getting a Mission Impossible 7 Part 2. I don't know why we can't just call it Part 8, but whatever. The movie ends, and it's one of those things that's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's how that should have gone. That's how Fast 10 should have ended. That's how Spider-Verse 2 should have ended. Like you should feel like a satisfactory conclusion. And I felt that with Mission Impossible. And, again, Tom Cruise slips on a bar of soap and breaks his neck, or like has a really severe shrimp allergy and his throat just closes up. Like, that's it. Like, we don't have to worry about what's going to happen. Like, we know. Like, he saved the day. Esai Morales is a bad man. And, no other extra spoilers. But, yeah, Mission Impossible 7 succeeded where I think most of the summer movies actually dropped the ball this year.
I will say that I was severely disappointed with Fast X. I wasn't a huge fan of Fast 9, but I thought that it was pretty decent. Fast X was a circus, in my opinion. It made no sense. It was wild, and it wasn't that fun. I don't know what it is. It wasn't that fun to watch. I felt like a lot of things we've seen were derivative of other of the rest of the films that we've seen for out of that franchise. A lot of people were critiquing, liking Jason Momoa's character. I didn't, for the sole fact that the whole thing is that Fast X and the Fast and Furious movies are all cartoons, right? Mm-hmm. And you need something to ground the movie. I don't care how many times Dominic Toretto says family to try to ground this movie. It doesn't do it, because you still have cars flying around and exploding and all this other stuff in wild and crazy ways that physics does. But having everything be wild and then Jason Momoa trying to take it up another notch as the villain, it's like, I can't gel with this whole universe. It's just wild. And then at the end, when the dam breaks and it ends with Dom like pushing the kid behind him, as if, what is that going to do? Like, save him from a millisecond of the water just smashing into him and instantly just evaporating you guys. I know they're going to get out of it somehow, but it's just like, I left the theater going, I do not care. I do not care if that's how this thing ends. Like, it's The Sopranos and it just cuts and we are just left with our own things, being like, I guess he makes it out. Who knows what's going to, I don't care. I left the movie saying, I don't care. Now, Across the Spider-Verse, I thought, I wasn't expecting that ending, but everything leading into that ending, or everything that was filled in the middle of that movie leading up to that, was incredible. Like, I was like, I can't wait for the next one, even though I was a little disappointed at how, like, I left the theater going like, man, I could have sat here for another 2 hours and I would have I would have done it. But Fast X, I'm done. I don't care. I'll I'll wait till it comes out on Peacock or whatever. I could not care less.
Wow. Yeah. You are correct. Fast X was not fun. Well, at least overall. Like I did enjoy Momoa's
Yeah.
part. But yeah, like we keep ratcheting up the spectacle, and I'm a guy who likes the circus. You know, like I enjoy enjoy a good spectacle, but at some point, like he's where he's driving down the dam as it's exploding and his tires are on fire. Like, what? Oh, I'm also more surprised that like they weren't working on Fast X 2 as they were filming Fast X 1. I also hate that I have to keep having to add this extra number to it.
Yeah.
Again, why not just Fast 11? Spider-Verse 2, despite hating the cliffhanger, I enjoyed it so much that I did not realize we were in there for nearly 2 hours. I thought it was like 90 minutes. It went by very fast. And again, I was like, I want more. Give me, hello, I want more. Depending on how this strike goes, who knows?
One last thing about Fast X. Another thing that I really despise about it is that because of how many movies are in it and how many characters they try to establish in every single movie, it's not like we're building any of these characters anymore. It's just that they're adding new ones. And now we're in the 10th movie and they're still trying to add like 5 more people that are related to each other in some way, retconning them into the movie. So now we have to add in more of these players while the people that have already been established, like Hobbs and Shaw, are just cameos. I mean, freaking Jason Statham is in the movie for 10 seconds, beating up on a body bag, and then has a fight scene, and then instantly does a duffel bag while he's wearing sweats, and then drives off. And that's all we get of Jason Statham. And I'm like, cool, but now I have to hear about this woman's sister a woman who died in like Fast and Furious 6. Now I gotta learn the sister that we just now found out about. Like, I'm just done. I don't need to know like 15, 20 people in this freaking franchise. I'm done. I'm telling you, I'm waving the white flag. I can't stand Fast and Furious anymore. And I really liked 8. I thought 8 was really, really good.
Okay.
I left the theater thinking that was like an amusement park ride. I really liked it, but then it started losing me again when it started ramping up, and I just couldn't. I can't do it.
Yeah, no. What they're trying to do is establish a next generation, because again, Dominic Toretto is 50. Vin Diesel's in his 50s. You know, like they tried to de-age his face as best as they can, and it don't look good. It did not. That $300 million somehow did not get spent on his face.
Do you think Vin Diesel is having like, I don't know. It's kind of weird to think like these super mega rich actors are having like a crisis or whatever. But like, do you think he's having like one of those like midlife crisis now that the third Guardians of the Galaxy wrapped up, and that's pretty much, they say they're done with the Guardians of the Galaxy anymore, and then this last Fast and the Furious movie is supposed to be it. I know there's probably going to be a third part to this one, but everything that he's like built up for the last like 20 years that's culminating into millions and billions of dollars for him is kind of wrapping up. And I don't know, maybe he's just like doesn't want it to end. He's like, I gotta do something. I gotta do The Witcher or whatever. The Witch Hunter. He did The Witch Hunter, not The Witcher, but The Witch Hunter.
He'd probably want to be a part of The Witcher too.
Yes.
Yeah. I think, I don't know if he's having a midlife crisis, or if he is, I don't think it's because, you know, the Fast and Furious saga is sort of wrapping up, or Guardians is like, I think he's always going to be an executive producer on these next Fast movies, even if he's not in them anymore. True. He's going to always be able to make money that way. But again, like they're trying to establish a new generation. That's why we got Little Brian and Yelena's sister. You know, the hot chick with the car, she's the thing. And now we're bringing back other characters who presumably were dead. So, you know, Gal Gadot made a little cameo, which everybody called. The predictability is becoming disappointing. However, I don't think, as long as there is oxygen in both of our lungs, I don't think we've seen the last Fast and Furious ever.
Doesn't them retconning people just to be alive just make it seem like those past movies just don't do anything anymore? Mm-hmm. Like that just kind of like cheapens the emotional thing that you like the writers did back then to bring back Han and then gal's character. And it's like, well, you just kind of took the bite out of those movies because now they just don't mean anything in those moments.
Right.
Those long, drawn out, oh my gosh, they're forever over. Nope, whatever. Now, when you rewatch them back, you're like, oh, she's going to be back in Fast X. So I don't have, like, basically fast forwarding through it. I know it's a giant freaking $billion soap opera that they've been perpetuating for the last 20 years, but it just gets like so annoying that nothing means anything in this franchise, and it's still going to make $1 billion. So
yeah, I also got to wonder now, how are they bringing back Elena? That is that's the Brazilian policewoman. She was shot in the face, point blank. However, like Gal Gadot and the bad guy from Part 6 both fell off a fucking moving airplane, and yet they somehow came back. So I have no reason to think like she'll have like some chrome on her face or something, some sort of like Terminator cyborg bullshit. But
yeah,
who knows?
I love how they retconned Han. I will get off of this and talk about future movies, but I loved how they retconned Han because in the original movie, I thought they zoomed into the car right before it exploded and he's like hanging upside down. And then in the retcon, he's up there in a building with Kurt Russell and it's like a mannequin in the car. And it's like, how are you? How are you? No, it's so dumb. It's so bad. So
and the excuse is even worse because it's just like, oh, he knows some Mr. Nobody knows some tricks. And it's just like, what? What does that mean? Doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I was excited for Han to get retconned back to life. I was like that? That's just dumb. Like they could have done anything. They could have made a twin brother out of it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. So, and then they retcon the retcon because he explodes in Tokyo Drift, which then became a future prequel. They fucked the timeline up and everything. And so when he finally does die at the end of Part 6, you're like, whoa! Yeah. Anyways, let's get off the Fast and Furious stuff here. Let's talk about upcoming movies. And this one's going to be a little difficult. For those of you not paying attention, kids, there is not one but two strikes currently going on as of this recording. And I understand people are meeting at the tables again after like weeks and weeks of nothing, but I still don't see an ending in sight for this. So bear with us, kids. Any of these movies that we talk about today may not even come out this year. That is still a threat looming over everything. That they could just be like, well, I'd like this movie about the pro wrestler to come out in December, but maybe not comes April. Yeah. So, but Drew, what you got on your first? What's your first movie you're looking forward to?
All right, so I think this is ironic because we just talked about we just ragged on the Fast and Furious franchise for how cartoony, how crazy it is. 10 installments in a single franchise, and it's completely off the rails and unrealistic. But my first movie I'm going to be talking about is Saw X. Okay. 10th installment in the Saw franchise. Trust me, I know these movies haven't been good since Saw 3. The original trilogy was immaculate. It was really good. And then they tried to keep it going because it was the next, well, it kind of is the next like Friday the 13th, the next Scream, the next, all these movies, Nightmare on Elm Street. It was the newest installment slasher movie outside, like the newest one. And they haven't been good since Saw 3. But I bought the box set. I've been buying into these movies. It's almost like a guilty pleasure at this point to kind of poke holes in it. It's almost like hate watching at this point. I still like the Saw franchise, but Jigsaw was terrible. Spiral was just as bad. And I think my problem with Spiral is that there was so much hype around it, having Chris Rock in it, him going to the people being like, I want to do this movie. I have this idea and we can get it back on track. And then how bad it was. But Saw X is coming out. I have no expectations for it, except that I am a horror movie enthusiast, and I will see pretty much anything that has to do with horror movies, whether it's good or bad. And I have bottom of the barrel expectations for Saw X, but it's one of those things where I'm so deep into this franchise, I might as well see it. and hopefully that we get some cool traps and some creativity going on here. But it comes out on September 29th. It was supposed to come out in October some point, but they pushed it up to September 29th, which is really good idea. So that way it plays all through October, because not a lot of great horror movies are out coming out for this Halloween fall time. But I'm looking forward to it. I'll watch it. It's under 2 hours, which is wild and crazy to think about nowadays. But yeah, I'm gonna go see it.
Was it one of the victims of the Taylor Swift concert coming out too? Because I know they pushed the new Exorcist movie back. And I was like, well, that's dumb. Like, but whatever.
Yeah, they're doing I saw like some people are doing like double features where the week before the new Exorcist movie comes out, they're playing the original one in theaters, which I'll be honest, I would rather go see the original Exorcist in theaters more than the newer Exorcist, but maybe it'll be good.
Maybe, knock on wood, fingers crossed. Just as we had talked about how cartoony the Fast and Furious franchise is now, then, I tapped out on the Saw franchise after part 3. The guy's dead, and when they're like, "We're coming out with a part 4," I was like, "Fuck you, no, you're not." However, everybody ate it up, and they started making a 5 and a 6 and a 7. They're up to 10 now, obviously because of the X. Stupid. I would rather watch the rest of the sequels in a YouTube video that just like, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. Like I like that there are disciples.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've also been laughing my ass off because the whole story about Saw is, I forget the guy's name. I know it's Tobin Bell, but I forget the character's name. But the character started this whole thing because he got cancer.
John Kramer.
He got a bad case of the cancer, and unfortunately couldn't afford any health insurance. But somehow he's got an unlimited Home Depot credit card because like these traps are just so bombastic. And then of course you got to power it, and like who's paying the rent on these facilities? Like no one's we're just going to hear all this hammering and drilling and in abandoned buildings. Like the whole thing is preposterous to me. But I actually liked Spiral. I thought they tried to do something different with it. And I was disappointed it didn't do better, and that we were just like, well, let's just dig up John Kramer's bones again. Like, so somehow this is the gift that keeps giving. And you know what? It's going to do a lot better than Spiral did.
I mean, you tapped out at the peak, so I'll give you that. You tapped out at the peak. I'll tell you right now. Fun fact: the first Saw I ever saw was 6 in theaters. Weird. I didn't see the first 1 through 5. I was like, me and my friends snuck into Saw 6 because we were young. We couldn't go into R-rated movies, so we bought a ticket for Astro Boy, and then we snuck into Saw 6. And before at least our movie theater had assigned seating, but it was like a midday afternoon that not the whole theater wasn't packed or anything. But we went to go see Saw 6. Had no idea what was going on. I mean, you're six movies deep into a franchise, and you're like, I guess this guy is just killing things. I don't know. But you tapped out at like the very peak. 3 is the best, followed by 1, then 2, 6, 4, and then 5 is like really bad, like really, really bad. And then everything falls off after that, in my opinion. But yeah,
I had when the first Saw came out, we were going through just broke times. Like we couldn't go. There's no matinees in our future here, and I don't even think we're bootlegging movies at the time. But then this little company out of San Jose popped up called Netflix, and my roommate started getting DVDs mailed to us, and I was like, oh, okay, oh, you got Saw. Threw in Saw, thought it was fucking amazing. Believe the hype status is what I call. That's when I don't get to see a movie when it first comes out, but like everyone keeps saying it's so good.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, it can't be that good, and you're like, oh my god, it really was that good. Saw 1 is one of those few movies where like I had literally just finished it. The credits are rolling. My roommate comes in and was like, hit the couch, dude. Like I gotta show you this fucking movie that you rented. Like this thing is amazing. And sure enough, I watched it again. I personally like part 2 the best. And it's that is one of those situations where some dude wrote an original horror movie about some weirdo trapped people in a house, traps, and this and that and the other. And then someone got a hold and like, what if we just made this a Saw movie? And that guy like immediately became a millionaire overnight. It was pretty fantastic. But then like, again, lore starts getting built up. The woman who's the Scream Queen, I forget her name, but she's in everything, or at least was once upon a time. I totally dug her story. I freaked the fuck out when she gets dropped into the pit of syringes. Like,
Yeah, that was rough.
oh my goodness. And then
Shout out
part
to
three,
James Wan, because that's where James Wan and
Mhm.
Lee Wanell, I think his name is.
Now, yeah.
That's who did the first two, and yeah, I mean, James Wan went on to be huge, just like
He's-
skyrocketed. So
He is like quietly the biggest horror pioneer that no one is talking about. Like
mhm.
his name gets
Yeah,
his name disappears when we start talking about like The Conjuring. Like people also forget that like Sinister. He's also is it Sinister? It's Insidious. He might have also done
Insidious.
Sinister.
Yeah.
He might have also done Sinister though. Like he's just the guy knows the good gimmick, and yeah, like I don't think he gets enough respect or enough credit or anything. Yeah, like 10 Saw movies now, and then the Conjuring universe and all the sequels and the spin-offs that those guys are like. I sat out the Nun Part 2. I didn't like the Nun Part 1, but I was just like, whatever.
Agreed.
Yeah. And then Part 3, I was just like, well, that's a movie. And I was fine with it. And then, like I said, John Kramer dies. And I was like, nope, well, good. We don't need to invest any more time in this. Like, they'll post everything on the Wikipedia page, I promise you. And that's how we've been following Saw. So I found a movie that I don't even know if I'm going to see, but what little I saw of it on the IMDb page, it caught my attention. It's called Divinity, written and directed by a man named Eli Alcazar. And he's mostly done a lot of TV that I don't think either of us have seen. However, he's got Bella Thorne, Stephen Dorff, and Scott Bakula in this. It actually is sticking to its October 13th date, going head to head with Miss Taylor Swift. And it's called Divinity. It is currently not rated, which I find fascinating. And the story on it is, let me just pull this up real quick. Here we go. Centers on two mysterious brothers who abduct a mogul during his quest for immortality. Meanwhile, a seductive woman helps them launch a journey of self-discovery. And while I watched the trailer without sound on, like, this thing looks incredibly experimental. Like, this definitely looks like something Stephen Dorff is in. This looks like that movie that Scott Bakula should have done 10 years ago or has been waiting to do for 10 years. Have you ever seen the movie he did? God damn it. He did a Lord of Illusions. Came out in 1995, probably a little bit before your time, based on a previous story you just told us. But that was Scott Bakula doing one of the cooler horror movies I've ever seen. Clive Barker. Of course, Clive Barker did that. Yeah.
Okay.
Written
Yeah.
and directed by. Fantastic movie. So I'm hoping that this movie, Divinity, is somewhere around those lines here. I don't necessarily know that it's a horror film, but it looks bizarre. So it's either going to be one of those things where I'm on the edge of my seat the entire time trying to absorb it, or I'm going to take a nap and then burn 108 minutes of my life.
Yeah, I love when horror movies take a chance. Like I am hopefully going to see, because I thought I missed my opportunity, but I really wanted to go see Talk to Me. Which I have tickets now to go see it for this week, so hopefully I get to go see it. But I love when newer people are coming up in the industry, like trying something new. Like I remember like Mandy was one of the weirdest movies that people were talking about when it came out with Nicolas Cage, and I remember being like, all right, I'm just gonna check it out. And I was enamored by it. Like I was enchanted by it, but I knew when watching it going like, I can't show this to a ton of people because they're not going to get it, they're not going to like it. So I love when things are done differently, or it's not like the same old kind of like another movie that's coming out like Thanksgiving looks pretty whatever at the end of the day, just like, oh, this is a holiday movie with a horror twist to it. It's like Happy Death Day almost. And I was like, I've seen this rendition done before. Santa Slays is another terrible horror movie that did this exact thing. But yeah, I'll definitely take a look at it because I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah, I've never seen a trailer for it. I was literally just scrolling through the IMDb today, just looking for something to talk about, and I was like, oh, this is a thing. And again, like Steven Dorff is in it. Again, this feels very indie-rific, and it feels like it's right up his alley. And you know, he usually excels in those situations. Just
Good
my
deal.
opinion, though. What else you got?
All right, I have another movie. This one is in October, coming out in October 20th. It's a bigger name movie. And I'm gonna eat it up. It's Killers of the Flower Moon that's coming out.
Okay,
This is the Martin
Scorsese,
Scorsese.
Yes.
With Leonardo DiCaprio, and yeah, this thing is going to be a behemoth of a movie. I'm going to break my one rule of not seeing anything over 3 hours in the theater. Probably for this movie. This movie is 3.5 hours long. And yeah, did not like The Irishman, which felt like 3 days long. But
yeah, you're kidding.
This one is different. This one has Leonardo DiCaprio, which I can buy in instead of like a CGI'd younger version of Robert De Niro trying to beat up a younger guy in the street, and it just looks like a 90-year-old man kind of wobbling around in CGI makeup, and it looked absolutely horrific. But this one actually looks really good, and I hope it's good because the trailers, I've been seeing the trailers everywhere, and the trailers are so effective to me. I don't know what the marketing is. I don't know what trailer house did it, but it's making this movie look so good. And it's making me want to go see a 3.5 hour movie. But Scorsese, to me, can't go wrong with him, and Leonardo DiCaprio. And it seems like a very interesting story. So hopefully it is good.
If it makes you feel better, I know it's an Apple TV Plus product, so it will be on the streaming service as well. If that helps you by any means, like holy shit! All right. Well, I'm going to move into the month of November here. November 17th, we get Taika Waititi's return to the big screen, and he's got a movie called Next Goal Wins, starring Michael Fassbender. And Michael Fassbender is a down on his luck. He's a former soccer coach, still a soccer coach, and somehow gets recruited to the island of Samoa to help them build a franchise, or at least score one goal. It's the trailer is very funny, and you know, this isn't an original story, and I don't think that it's supposed to be a true story. However, I want to see what Taika Waititi does. I like when he's not doing big blockbuster franchises. I mean, everyone liked Thor Ragnarok, but then Love and Thunder came out, and you're like, oh my god, what the fuck happened here? This is awful.
Yeah.
So I'll be happy to see him do a new original thing. I like Jojo Rabbit. I get why people like What We Do in the Shadows, but I also think that thing is incredibly overrated. It's fine on a first viewing, but I poke a lot of holes in it, and then I got a spaghetti strainer. But yeah, Next Goal Wins, Michael Fassbender, and a bunch of Asian Pacific Islanders. Yeah, what else can you say?
I hope it's very much going back to like his roots with like Where the Wilder People Live. I think that's what it's called. And I love that movie. I watched that for the first time. That was one of his first bigger breaks, and it was so good. It was so heartfelt. It was still funny. It had some more dry humor in it. I didn't like Thor 4 at all. So I would love to see him do something more original and more kind of grounded. I thought Jojo Rabbit was pretty good and heartfelt. I actually really enjoyed that movie, but when it came down to bigger blockbuster movies, I was like, no, I can't do this. This is not the Taika Waititi I want to see moving forward.
Yeah, no, something happened on the set of Thor 4, and we may never know what it is, but it was like, you know, again, everyone liked Ragnarok. Ragnarok is a pretty solid movie, and you know, we even made Thor and the Hulk likable again. Like that was quite an accomplishment. and then who knows what the hell happened. Like, I think he just got absorbed into the marketing machine. But
Yeah.
Next Goal wins November 17th. I don't have a rating for it, but yeah, it looks funny. If you like Cool Runnings, this should be also good. Such an
Sweet
outdated
deal.
reference. Oh my god,
I love that movie though. Such a good
it's a great
movie.
movie. Still get chills on the back of my neck thinking about it. Yeah, it's good. What you got, buddy? What's the next?
All right. November. We're going into Thanksgiving.
Nice.
Because this movie is coming out like right before, a couple of days before. And I'm talking about the Napoleon movie, rated R, Joaquin
Ooh.
Phoenix. This is going to be an epic. Ridley Scott looking for a bounce back, in my personal opinion, because I did not like House of Gucci whatsoever.
Fuck, that was not a good movie.
So,
Yeah.
but I watched the trailer for this movie. Well, I watched half the trailer for this movie. One looking up movies for this podcast, and I was instantly like, "Yep, I'm gonna go see it." It's gonna be it's hour and 58 minutes, but it looks good. It's very Ridley Scott-esque with the way it looks, the cinematography, and how epic of a size it feels. So which I felt like House of Gucci was just not that. I felt like he was trying to do something else with House of Gucci that wasn't working, and I just don't think that's in his wheelhouse. But this movie looks impeccable, and it has Joaquin Phoenix in it, so I feel like he has the actors set up, he has the space that he wants, the budget that he wants, and I think that this movie is going to be really, really good. I don't know if it's like a family movie to go on Thanksgiving break to, but I'm definitely going to go see it.
It's definitely not a family film. I'm absolutely surprised that's an hour and 58 minutes. Like, I saw those trailers; they're great trailers. But I saw Ridley Scott and I saw Joaquin Phoenix and I saw that they're doing the Napoleon movie, and I was like, this is going to be a 3 hour odyssey, and I will be there for it. But hearing that it's only 2 hours now, I'm like, oh my god, this is so much better. Napoleon is one of those stories that actually caught my attention during history class. Like, when you hear like how Napoleon overthrew an entire country, but then got arrested, put in prison, and then guess what? His supporters, they formed a prison break right out of a movie where like you're just sitting there and all of a sudden the wall just explodes. It's like, we're ready to rescue you, boss. And he was like, all right, about goddamn time. Let me take my little body and let's go. So I'm looking forward to Ridley Scott's Napoleon as well.
I'll be honest, I don't know that much about Napoleon. I don't remember learning about him in my history class growing up at all. So I'm actually like interested in the actual like lore of him, and like I know this is gonna be a movie, so they're gonna embellish a lot of things, but yeah, it's kind of like a gateway into it. And I mean, I'm not a history guy. Like, I went and saw Oppenheimer, it was fine, but I'm not normally a dude that watches history movies, but this one definitely caught my eye, and I'm like, I want to see it.
We're gonna get into another biopic here. I'm going all the way to December 22nd, and A24 has produced a little movie called The Iron Claw. What's that about, you ask? It's about pro wrestling family, the Von Erichs. These guys are strictly Texas-based, but they flew around the world just wrestling in rings anywhere they could. Big, everywhere from little empty abandoned parking lots to full-on arenas in Japan. Like, this was a very blessed family when it came to the sport and the spectacle that is pro wrestling. However, some people say they're cursed as well. Like, there's like 7 or 8 members of this family, and almost all of them have died to something tragic, or there was a drug overdose, or someone got murdered. Like the weight that this family carried with them and all their pain is finally being put into a movie. Sean Durkin, he's wrote and directed this, and it stars Zac Efron. And I'm excited to see what Zac Efron does with the Carrie Von Erich legacy. I don't know if he's a Texas boy and this is a passion project of his, but yeah, anytime I talk to somebody from Texas, I always ask him this question: are you a Von Erich lady or are you a Guerrero lady? I'm usually talking to a lady in this situation. And the answer is always surprising. So Um, Looking forward to seeing the Iron Claw again. A24. It'll probably be around the 2 hour mark, and again, that's if it even comes out this Christmas.
Yeah, this is interesting because I did see that this was a movie that we're set to release. I saw that it was A24. I didn't know it was about wrestling. And it's weird because I don't know. I've like looked back on this and I've realized I really just like wrestling stuff lately.
Nice.
Like
Okay.
looking back, like any wrestling movie I've sat down to watch, I've really liked. Peanut Butter Falcon, which has
Beautiful
wrestling
movie.
elements to it, but it was my favorite movie of I want to say 2019 or 2000. It was it 2018 that came out.
I think it was
Whenever it
2017.
came out. 2017. It was my favorite movie of that year. So Peanut
Nice.
Butter Falcon has wrestling elements in it. Fighting with my family. Really enjoyed
Oh,
that movie as well.
same.
I've watched fan made documentaries on YouTube of like WWE Monday Night Raw, and for some reason, I will sit through these hour and a half long wrestling stuff, but I've never sat down and actually watched a full on wrestling match in my life. Like
Oh,
I've never sat
it's
through
interesting.
Monday Night SmackDown or anything like that.
Mhm.
So, but I like the lore and I like so hearing that it's a wrestling movie, hearing that it's from A24, I'm definitely going to go check this out because for some reason I just feel like maybe I'm like I don't know, maybe I'm like secretly into wrestling, but I've just never gotten into it. So
You might be. You might be. I would be honored if I could take you to your first wrestling event. I don't know how I'm going to do that from San Francisco when you're in Florida, but we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. Don't worry. Um,
oh, also Netflix hasn't came out with a new mini series recently.
okay.
I don't know if you saw this, but it's called The Wrestlers, and it's
Mhm.
all about the Ohio Valley Wrestling
Mhm.
Federation that's in there that
Yeah.
used to do all the different stuff, and I've gotten sucked into that little
Mhm.
reality docu series thing, and I just started watching it, and I'm like, all right, I'm into it. Like I just like all this stuff. I don't know why.
Okay. I know of the series and I know of the promotion, and yeah, Ohio Valley Wrestling was a big deal for a minute and a half, and I say a minute and a half because eventually, it was WWE's feeding center. Like you're a young
Yeah.
independent, you learn the ropes, they break you in, and then someone from WWE comes by and they're like, oh, hey, John Cena. Hello, Brock Lesnar. Hello, Dave Batista. Why don't you come on over to the big leagues now? We would love to have you. And then they did. And you probably know how that went. They sold off their part of Ohio Valley Wrestling, and then they have their own developmental center now in Florida, right
Yeah.
in your backyard, actually. So like it's quite fascinating to see how far they went with that, and now it's all run by a whole new organization. Did you ever watch Entourage?
Yes.
The guy that Ari Gold is based on now owns the UFC and the WWE.
Oh
And they
wow,
literally just
really?
went public this past Monday. The company's now called TKO, but it's still going to have UFC and it's still going to have WWE and then all the shows in between. As far as WWE programming goes, yeah, I could not recommend you sit down and watch SmackDown or Raw. I think SmackDown is thankfully only 2 hours, but Raw is like 3 hours sometimes because it's
Mhm.
live. Sometimes it's 3.5 hours, and there's very little wrestling happening in it, and that gets very old very quickly. Like
Yeah.
you sit there for 45 minutes just watching people just scream into a microphone. That's not entertaining. It can be, but when it's that much, no, no, no. I tuned in to watch wrestling specifically, and now I'm only going to get two more matches. Maybe that's not good. Um, go to Netflix. There are two other pro wrestling shows out there. One is Glow, which is
Okay.
a comedy drama based on the actual Glow promotion, but they've written it in such a way that none of those chicks get a cent from it. So, however, it did
Yeah,
three
of
seasons.
course.
It's done by the woman who did Orange is the New Black and Weeds, and I think she did something else. But yeah, Genji Cohen. Glow is a very good series. And then there's another series. It's Mexican. They Netflix imported it from Mexico. It's got so many different names too. Like since my Spanish is bad, I can't give you the real name, but it's also called, depending on what territory, it's called Queens of the Ring or Against the Ropes. However, it's 10
Okay.
episodes.
I think I heard of both of those.
It's based on a French movie about a woman who becomes a pro wrestler and has to hide her identity from her kids and her husband, and everyone's like, you're gonna get hurt and blah blah blah. Anyway, I never saw that movie, but WWE bought it, added a couple scenes with their wrestlers in it, and then tried to release it. I think it got a theatrical release, but they were doing a lot of video on demand stuff at that time. So
Okay.
but anyway, the TV series is very, very, very good. In fact, I think the final 20 minutes of that last episode, I think it's better than the original Rocky.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah, man. It's that dramatic. So, and then Amazon Prime, I think the day this episode comes out, it's sort of a biopic. But when I saw this at the Castro 2 weeks ago, the director was there doing the little Q&A, and he kept referring to it as his first fictional film. And I was like, this is a real person that you made a movie about. It's called Cassandro. It's a luchador who wrestles without a mask, but he's also a flamboyant homosexual. And he's a larger-than-life character. I've actually had the privilege of meeting this gentleman once upon a time doing a show in San Francisco.
Awesome.
Really nice guy. However, I don't think the movie did him justice, but it's going to be available on Prime sometime before the end of this month. It's a larger-than-life character with a larger-than-life career, and somehow it just felt dry and slow and condensed. Like, they make the movie all about his sexual orientation, and that's a very, very important part to that man's life. However, he did great things in his career. Like, just because he won over some folks in Mexico, guess what? Then he had to go to Japan and win folks over there. And that's a hard country to win folks over in. And then he had to go to another. And then he wrestled in the United States. And I felt like we only got a sliver of what it could have been. But again, if you're into pro wrestling these days on a cinematic level, those are my 3 recommendations for you from the Pro Wrestling Hall of Famer class of 2021.
Sweet deal. Yeah, I'll definitely go check some of those out. I definitely heard of Glow, and I think I've heard of the other slightly Against the Ropes. I think I heard of it, but it was like I didn't see it as much as I did see Glow, and I think it was because Netflix promotes all their stuff everywhere. They'll promote it on the front banner. They'll promote it as one of the top 10 movies or shows that are I always sit there and go this is not, nobody is watching this, but I know you're just promoting it, being like, it's the number 2 video watched by everybody in America or throughout the world. It's like, yeah, you're lying, but I get it. I understand the game, but yeah, I'll definitely go check it out.
My biggest complaint about Glow is that it unfortunately ends unceremoniously after season 3. There was going to be a season 4, and then COVID came on. They're just like, we're just going to pay out your contract. No one else gets to see season 4, but y'all get paid. Don't worry. And I was like, we could have just made season 4 too, but whatever. So all of that stemmed from my expectations of The Iron Claw, starring Zac Efron, produced by A24, coming out December 22nd.
Sweet deal.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Drew, you're always a good sport here, dude. I appreciate you being on the show every time. I don't want to take up any more of your time, but where can folks find you?
You can find me on social media at Drew Angelman, as well as on YouTube at Angelcake Entertainment or youtube.com/at AngelcakeVids. Talking about reality TV, the challenge mainly. And yeah, I'm doing some all different types of content.
That's what's up. And you folks know what I do. I do some stuff around here. Also, friend of the family, Mike Fish, we have a little show called The Waffle Box. It's the original Waffle Box. You accept no substitutions. It is the People's Podcast, and it is the best part of Wednesdays, coming all the way from the future home of Super Bowl 60. You love us because we do this. We do this because we love you. And for Drew Angelman, I've been Kush Hayes. You've been you.
Microdose, 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 microdose. Microdose, 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 yeah, microdose.
From the Bosnet family.
All right, about goddamn time. Let me take my little body and let's go.